this is Katie from Katie Loves Classic Books, and if you watched my last video, you'll know that I haven't recorded a wrap-up in a while, so that I'm going back through and doing belated wrap-ups of the months I missed because I read good things, and I want to share them with you. So right now, it's the same day as me recording the January wrap-up, but I just finished it. I am going to record my belated February wrap-up. So I read 4 books in February, just like January. So let's get to it. So the first thing I read in February was The Raven, Tales and Poems by Edgar Allan Poe. This is a collection of some of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories and poems, mostly short stories. These were all published in the years between, I think, 1827 and, let me look, 1849. Yeah, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I liked this. I didn't necessarily love his stories, but I found them interesting and I enjoyed reading them. I never really found myself bored at any point. Poe is kind of one of the first horror authors and the master of the macabre, he is called. And all the stories are very atmospheric and well crafted, I would say. I think my 2 favorite stories were Lygia and The Fall of the House of Usher. So Lygia was kind of a creepy gothic love story about the will to live, which I thought was cool and maybe a little bit more, while it was creepy and sinister, it had kind of a positive message, I guess. I mean, the will to live, that's not too dark, right? And The Fall of the House of Usher was really interesting and one of his most famous poems. That one was just super atmospheric and I liked the ambiguity of it. I realized after reading that, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie Crimson Peak. It was kind of like a scary, gothic movie, something like Victorian times. That came out, gosh, I don't know, a couple years ago or something, with that girl, Mia, I can never remember her last name, but she was in a Jane Eyre not that long ago, I don't know. Anyways, you've seen Crimson Peak. I saw it when it came out, and it made me realize that that movie's probably based on the house, or the Fall of the House of Usher. Yeah, which is interesting, with, some ambiguity and some weird family stuff, maybe some incest. Yeah, anyways, that one was interesting. Some other stories that were good. Let's see. I think there's one called William Wilson about a doppelganger, which was kind of good. The Mask of the Red Death I found really good. Just very well crafted and very atmospheric. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that one. Message Found in a Bottle, that was like a very beginning, or one in the very beginning. It was kind of this scary seafaring adventure type story. It reminded me of Pirates of the Caribbean a little bit, and so I thought that was fun. Also, there's one, I don't remember what it's called now, but something about a mummy, and that basically they figure out how to bring this mummy back to life, these people, and have conversations with it. And I didn't love that one. I found it kind of bizarre and different and funny. And The Cask of Amontillado, or is it The Cask of Amontillado or Delado? Let's see. Don't want to be. Okay, it looks like The Cask of Amontillado. Okay, well, I have actually read that one before. That and The Telltale Heart. Both of those I actually had to read in school, and yeah, it was nice reading those 2 again. But the Cask of Amontillado, I don't know. I can't say it. I'll stay here all night and be tongue twisted. Anyways, that one, initially I don't find quite that interesting, but then I read something about it having to do with Poe's alcoholism, and him trying to deal with it and like shut it away, and that made that story interesting to me. So yeah, so in the long run I found it interesting. Anyway, so those were his stories that I liked and found interesting. His poems that were included here, I really wasn't that big of a fan of, to be honest. I've read The Raven before. It was cool reading it again. I do like that one, but yeah, I just don't necessarily love his poems. They're just kind of dramatic and maybe not my thing. But overall, I found this interesting. I'm really glad I've read more Edgar Allan Poe. It was fun. So yeah, if it sounds like something you're interested in, like, I recommend checking him out. Probably a great Halloween time read when Halloween rolls around again. It's May right now, but when Halloween rolls around, this could be a good pick. And I did like this collection. Some good stories in here, and plus it's cool. I don't know, this is the Penguin Horror Classics series that Guillermo del Toro has put together. And they're really cool. I don't know if you want to look at it more. It's like cool in the back. The pages are black. I found that really cool. Anyways, I don't know. Good addition if you're looking for one. I finished in February was The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle by the Japanese author Haruki Murakami, and this was published in 1994. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. What can I say? I'm really loving Haruki Murakami. I'd say he's one of my favorite contemporary authors at the moment. This is this is the 4th book I've read by him. And while it isn't my favorite, I know I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it's not my favorite, but I just couldn't help but love it. I love his peculiar, bizarre type of magical realism. I just really get sucked into it. So, if you didn't already know Haruki Murakami, he doesn't always write magical realism, I believe, but this is magical realism. And it follows a man named Toru, and one day I guess I should say first of all that he's kind of recently out of a job. He's kind of looking, but maybe not that hard, and one day his cat goes missing, and then shortly after his wife, and after that, his life is never the same again, and he gets swept along in these bizarre events with these very bizarre characters, and it's a bizarre adventure. Yeah, so it seems so easy to get into Murakami novels. Like, you get swept away so easily, it seems to flow, and you're just in it, and you're not questioning stuff, and then you step back, you're like, what has happened? What is this even about? Yeah, it more appeals to not so much your logical brain, but I think more like your right brain. And is that the more like imaginative side? You just kind of have to go with it and experience the dream like haze that it is. Although even underneath this dream like haze, I could spot out some themes. A big one was identity. I felt like this was explored a lot. Like, how much do you even know about yourself? Not only yourself, like others that are close to you. Like, how much do you know about your husband or your wife? And that was explored a lot. Reality as well. There are some interesting metaphysical themes with healers and psychics and stuff like that. I liked the inclusion of those things. Also, violence. I feel like Haruki Murakami always throws that in, this undercurrent of violence in humanity between war and violence towards women and all these types of things. Oh yeah, but besides the story about Toru and his wife and whatnot, there were some characters that had been in Manchuria around the time of World War II, and there were sections set back then or told about that as well, which was interesting. It was a period of history that I didn't know that much about. Yeah, so we have that interspersed as well, so that's where the word comes from. Yeah, so some interesting stuff. There were a lot of bizarre female characters. I felt like they're mostly female characters that Toru comes across, and I couldn't help but feel that they were connected to his wife, whose name is Kamiko. So I felt like they were either connected to Kamiko or like supposed to represent maybe parts of Kamiko. This part at the end with this teenage girl kind of made me feel like that. But I'm not really sure. Like I said, you don't really get the answers you want from Haruki Murakami. You get some bizarreness, and then yet you see some exploration of some interesting themes, and usually there's quite a depth to the stories. Maybe this one I felt less so than others, but this is definitely a bizarre one. So if you like bizarre books and anything I talked about sounds interesting to you, I recommend you pick this up. Like I said, not my favorite. I really recommend 1Q84, to be completely honest, if you're wanting to read one of Haruki Murakami's magical realist books. So, check out that one if you haven't read one of his books. The book I read in February was Picnic at Hanging Rock by the Australian author Joan Lindsey, and this was published in 1967. So this takes place at an all-girls college in the year 1900 in Australia, and on Valentine's Day, most of the girls go on a picnic to a place called Hanging Rock. And while on the picnic, 3 girls and a governess disappear and are never seen again. Yeah, and it's a rather ambiguous mystery, you would say. And then it's about the ripple effect this event has on all the people that were around and involved. This wasn't something I could love. I gave it 4 to 5 stars on Goodreads. But yeah, I found it really interesting, and I couldn't really find fault with it. It's intriguing, but yet you never really get a satisfying answer. That's okay, though. It's interesting to see the ripple effect this has on everybody. I mean, some teachers had to change jobs. There was somebody drinking on the sly, unfulfillment of love. What else? I don't know. But hysteria. Someone becomes a bit hysterical. Yeah, so there's just a lot of effects this rather bizarre and tragic event has on the people around them. And yeah, it's a very atmospheric book. The descriptions of nature in Australia I found really cool because it's not really something you usually come across. I think this is the first like Australian classic I've read. And it was very unsettling as well. So yeah, a good book. Not too much of a plot really, but intriguing and interesting and atmospheric just the same, and I do recommend it if you're interested. The final book I read in February was The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. Isabel Allende is a Chilean author, and this was published in 1982. So this follows 4 generations of women in 20th century Chile. It's a novel of passion and complicated family relationships, a bit of the supernatural, and a nation at a difficult point in its history. Yeah, the first half of the novel, or more at the beginning, I found to be more about the characters and their personal relationships and stuff like that, which I think I enjoyed more. And the second half became more about the nation at large, I felt. And while that was really interesting and I found out stuff about Chile I did not know, it got pretty brutal and more difficult to read. So yeah, there was some difficult stuff to read towards the end as a warning, like a little bit of torture and stuff like that. Not as much as the Orenda if you watched my January wrap up, but still. Yeah, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really loved the characters. Clara is the first woman we really follow. Although we kind of get her mother a little bit too. That's why I say 4 generations, but not too much. So we follow Clara, who becomes kind of the matriarch of this family after a while, and she's psychic and clairvoyant and all of this, and I really enjoyed that aspect, and I really liked her. She just seemed transcendent or something, but kind of distant. And then her husband Esteban, and he was difficult to like. He has one of the worst tempers that I've read about. Pretty awful. Yeah, he has some human moments that make you sympathize with him a little bit. And then there's Blanca, Clara's daughter, and she has one of the best love stories in the book, I felt. And then there's her daughter, Alba. And Alba and Esteban's relationship, Alba's relationship with her grandfather, kind of is what redeemed Esteban in my eyes a little bit, because it was kind of sweet. Maybe his relationship with her made up for a lot of his, I don't know, cruelty or harshness towards his other family members. Yeah, so this was just one of those epic family sagas, and yet a saga of a country as a whole as well. And I really enjoyed this, and I really recommend this as well. So, those are all the books I read in February. If you've read any of these books or you have something to say or to recommend to me, please comment below. I do written reviews of all the books I read, so you can find those on Goodreads and Tumblr, which I'll link below. And I have a Patreon account, which I started a while back, just I haven't really done much with it because I've been making videos, but I still have it, so if you still want to support me, like, I'm always doing reviews, even if it's just written. So if you want to support me no matter what, you can support me on there, which is always appreciated. You know, that can help me buy more books and stuff like that. And, you know, the more I make, the more cool things I can hopefully do. But yeah, I plan on making more videos soon. I think this is my last one of tonight, but as soon as I have time, I will do a belated March wrap-up and an April wrap-up. It's only May 2nd, so I'm not too belated on April at least, but I am on March. Anyways, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.